So we're here with Tommy Joseph, the carver behind the restoration of the Chief Johnson Pole. So Tommy, tell us a little bit about this process and how it started and kind of what that was like.
Well, the whole thing started, I guess, a little over a year ago. The beak on the raven fell out, and that's what drew attention to in needing some work done. And so from there, talking with Anita with the Tongass Museum, she knew that I did this sort of work, doing wood conservator work, restoration, preservation work, as well as being a wood carver. Asked me if I was interested, and I said, sure. This is stuff I've been doing for 27 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so were you familiar with the Chief Johnson Pole before you started this then?
I grew up here in Ketchikan, so everybody in Ketchikan, as long as this town's been here, knows Chief Johnson Pole.
So how long were you here, and how long does this kind of process usually take?
Well, I don't think there is a usual. See, once you get it down, doing the condition assessment and figuring out really what's the matter with it, what needs to be done, and once you've cleaned the pole, you can really, it's like a puzzle, take it all apart to figure out how to put it back together again. What needs to be done as far as the wood deterioration, wood replacement, treatment of rot areas, and then you have carpenter ants. All those things need to be addressed, and it's figuring out what to do and when to do it.
And is there any kind of thing that you've done to this to kind of help preserve it going forward?
Absolutely, yeah. We're using borates and different things. I'm not going to tell you everything I used to, but there are chemicals and things we do that are going to enhance and stop rot, stop it from deteriorating further.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for talking to us.
Well, thank you.
Cool.
So we're here with Anita Maxwell from the Tongass Historical Museum, and you were a pretty big part of putting all this together. Tell us about that.
I was just the one that got to connect the dots. So about a year and a half ago, Raven's beak fell off the Chief Johnson Pole, and that really started us looking at, is it safe, is it structurally sound? I mean, the safety of the pole, the safety of everybody that walks under it every day was really the city's utmost concern. The pole is owned by the Tongass tribe, so working with the tribe to figure out how we could take care of the pole and continue to honor it. So looking at just what was the funding, what are our options. So about a year ago, we brought in an assessor from Canada, and he worked his magic and did some science experiments on the pole and determined that it was pretty sound, and so that it was definitely worth continuing to invest in as far as cleaning, repair, restoration, that kind of thing. So we were really lucky. Tommy Joseph, who grew up in Ketchikan, just across the way from the Totem Heritage Center, has been doing this kind of work for the last couple of decades, really, and just a trusted carver, and we knew that he'd do a fabulous job. And so we were able to pull him away from Sitka and his family for about 6 weeks, so he's been squirreled away in the old fire hall. The pole in our records was 55 feet long. In reality, it's 60 feet long. So when we measured the fire hall, we had about 61 feet. So the gods were on our side, I guess is the only way I could say that. So that worked out well. And he did a little bit of repair work with it. There was one wing he had to recarve. Of course, Raven's beak he recarved as well, and then was able to just clean up the pole. It had a lot of organic matter on it, as you can imagine. It hadn't been cleaned for about 15 years.
Oh, wow.
And so getting all of the moss off and everything that was growing. It had a little bit of ant infestation, but not major carpenter ants, so we were actually pretty lucky. So after the cleaning and the repair, he actually had time to repaint it as well. So now it looks glorious and new.
Yes.
We're really excited about that as well, and as well as doing some insecticide and then some wood preservative on it. So it could outlast us all, and we'll hopefully get it on a cycle of being able to clean it and take care of it and really honor it and its story. Yeah. Beautiful sunny day to do it without wind, so we were very, very grateful for that.
Yeah, that first day that it came down, it was
Yeah, it was awful, but coming down is always easier. So we're really lucky. Marvin Hill with Wildcatters and his crew has done a fabulous job, and just even getting it out of the fire hall last night was by millimeters.
That would give me a heart attack.
It was a little nerve-wracking, and until all the wings are back up, I think I won't completely breathe fully, but we're really lucky to have a good crew. The Streets Division guys have been fabulous to help us out, and everybody just kind of comes together. So that was my piece. It was connecting the dots and making that come together.
Yeah, fantastic. Do you mind maybe telling us a little bit about the history of the pole?
I am going to defer to Stacy, who is a much better storyteller than I.
So the Chief Johnson Pole obviously has a lot of history attached to it. A lot of history that you can't just, understand by looking at it. Understanding the pole is understanding the events that it was raised for, and also the stories and the mythology that they honor behind it. So Chief Johnson was a pretty renowned leader around here. He was a very distinguished elder, and the Chief Johnson Pole originally stood in front of the Chief Johnson house. Now, at the very top of the pole, you have the Kajuk, which is the crest of Chief Johnson. It's a very distinguished. It's like having a distinguished last name. It's yours and only for your family. The long column of the pole goes down into several figures, where you have two figures that have beaks, but they're meant to be representing servants within a story. Underneath that, you have Raven, and then you have Fogwoman. Now, a lot of people in Ketchikan are somewhat familiar with the Fogwoman story. At its base level, Fogwoman is responsible for having the salmon here in not just Ketchikan, but within bringing it to the world. It's a very important origin story to the peoples of this area and to Southeast Alaska in general. It was said that Fogwoman, brought them here and pulled them out of a hat and had been able to gift them to a village. Now, on the pole itself, you'll see Fogwoman holding the first two salmon, which is a really important aspect of it. So you have the mythology that goes along with it, but then you also have the events, such as somebody might, have an old picture from some old story, but then it somehow ties into their family history and why they have it. Now, Chief Johnson's pole with the Fogwoman and with the Kajuk sitting right here on top of Ketchikan Creek, it's the most fitting place, because Ketchikan Creek at the base of Ketchikan is, that's the base of our town. That's where we get all of our fish and everything. I really am just so thrilled with Tommy and how, this is the pole that I grew up seeing every day going past, and I hopefully will continue to see it throughout the rest of my time here. But he really stayed true to the pole, and it's such a wonderful thing. So
yeah, it turned out great. It looks fantastic.
It's amazing. Yeah, amazing.